Dutton Ranch Season 2, Episode 1. Case comes to save Carter. Just typing that sentence gives me chills because if this actually happens, it changes absolutely everything we thought we knew about where this story is heading. Beth and Rip built a new life in Texas to escape the chaos of Montana. And now that chaos has followed them straight across state lines. Carter is gone, taken, dragged across the Mexican border by a cartel that just declared war on this family. And somewhere out there, Case Dutton might be the one man who can bring him home. Before we get into what could happen next, we need to talk about how bad things really got, because the Season 1 finale of Dutton Ranch did not just end with a cliffhanger. It ended with a body on the ground and a family that will never be the same. The final episode of Season 1, titled El Padrino, ripped this show wide open. For most of the season, we watched Beth and Rip try to build something stable on their new ranch in Rio Paloma, Texas, while Carter struggled to find his place as a cowboy. But underneath all of that, something darker was festering at the 10-petal ranch next door. Beulah Jackson, the powerful matriarch played by Annette Bening, had been hiding a secret that could destroy everything she built. When Beth and Rip discovered that cattle were being smuggled across the border carrying $2 million worth of fentanyl, the truth finally came out. Beulah admitted she had been trapped for 15 years, forced into the drug trade by a cartel boss named Mariano Reyes just to keep the ranch alive. But Mariano was never going to let that debt go quietly. Once he learned that his secret was exposed, he made a decision that shattered the Jackson family from the inside. He ordered his own son, Joaquin, to kill his other son, Rob Will, so that Joaquin could take full control of the ranch. And in one of the most gut-wrenching moments this show has given us so far, Rob Will shared a tender, almost peaceful conversation with his daughter Orina just moments before there was a knock at the door. A single gunshot rang out. Orina walked back into that house and found her father dead on the floor. Beulah came home to learn that the son she had just chosen to lead the family was gone forever, killed on the orders of the man she feared most. While that heartbreak was unfolding, Mariano's men stormed the Dutton Ranch itself. Rip, Everett, Azul and Zachariah held the line in a brutal gunfight. And even though Azul took a bullet to the arm, the ranch crew survived and pushed the attackers back. For one moment it almost felt like Beth and Rip had won. But that relief did not last. In the chaos, with everyone distracted by gunfire and bloodshed, Mariano's men slipped in and took the one thing Beth and Rip could never survive losing. They took Carter, dragged him across the border into Mexico, turning what started as a business war over cattle and drug debt into something far more personal and far more dangerous. When Rip found out, he reportedly told Beth, "They don't want Carter, they want us." And if you know anything about Beth Dutton, you know exactly what that promise means for Mariano Reyes. So here is where things get interesting, and here is why that Season 2 title has me completely losing my mind. We now officially know Dutton Ranch is coming back. Paramount Plus renewed the show for Season 2 just weeks after it premiered, and for good reason. This series became the biggest original launch in Paramount Plus history, pulling in nearly 13 million viewers worldwide in its very first week. That kind of number does not happen by accident, and it tells you Paramount is not playing around with what comes next. But renewal is only half the story, because the other half is what is happening quietly behind the scenes, and it might explain exactly how Carter gets rescued. Behind the scenes, Dutton Ranch just went through a shakeup that fans are still trying to fully process. Chad Fian, the man who created this entire world, exited the show just weeks before the Season 1 premiere even aired. Taking over as the new showrunner is Benjamin Cavell, a writer with serious credentials, having worked on shows like Justified, Homeland, and SEAL Team. Now, a new showrunner stepping in this early is not something you should brush past. It often means a shift in tone, a shift in pacing, and sometimes a completely different direction for where the story goes. And when you combine that with something Ed Harris recently said in an interview, things start to feel a lot more complicated than a simple cast return. Ed Harris, who plays Everett McKinney, sat down with Variety and did not hold back. He said he felt misled about how inconsequential his role ended up being, and he admitted that halfway through filming Season 1, he was telling his own team to get him out of there. That is not the kind of thing an actor says lightly, especially on a Taylor Sheridan production. But here is the twist that actually gives us hope for Season 2. In that same conversation, Harris confirmed he signed on for 2 seasons, and he revealed that filming for Season 2 is set to begin in February 2027. Kelly Riley backed this up herself, saying they are slated to start early 2027, but that the writer's room is already moving fast behind the scenes. That means right now as we speak, someone is sitting in a room deciding exactly how Carter gets found, and exactly how far Beth and Rip are willing to go to bring him home. So let's talk about that title again. Case comes to save Carter. On paper, this sounds almost impossible, because Case Dutton is currently living an entirely different life over on Marshall's, working as a federal agent hundreds of miles away from Texas. But if you look closely at how Taylor Sheridan builds these shows, nothing in this universe stays separate for long. Every single spin-off eventually bleeds into another. If Beth and Rip's hunt for Carter crosses into cartel territory near the Texas-Mexico border, and if Case's Marshall storyline happens to intersect with the same criminal network, you are looking at one of the most emotional reunions this franchise has ever set up. Think about it. Two Dutton siblings torn apart by everything that happened in Montana, reunited not out of choice, but because someone they both love is in danger. If that happens, I do not think there is a dry eye left in the fandom. And honestly, when you think about who Beth Dutton is, doesn't it make sense that she would need her brother for this fight? Rip is fearless, but he is not a federal agent with intelligence resources and cartel connections through law enforcement channels. Cases. If Beth and Rip cross that border chasing rumors of where Carter is being held, and they run into a wall only the government can break through, Case becomes the missing piece. This is not just a fun crossover idea anymore. This might be the only realistic way Carter comes home alive. Meanwhile, back on the ranch, the emotional fallout from Rob Will's death is only beginning. Joaquin was the one who pulled that trigger, forced into it by his own father, and I do not believe for one second that guilt is going to stay buried. Beulah lost a son she had just chosen to lead her family, and she is far too sharp to ignore the timing of Mariano's arrival and her son's murder. If Season 2 opens with Beulah slowly putting the pieces together, we could be watching a mother turn against the very man she once feared enough to protect. And then there is Orina, carrying a secret pregnancy while grieving her father, trapped in the middle of a war she never asked to be part of. Every single one of these threads is a ticking bomb, and Season 2 Episode 1 is where the fuse finally reaches the end. What makes this moment so different from anything Dutton Ranch has done before is that this is not a business dispute anymore. This is not about cattle or debt, or a struggling ranch trying to survive hard times. This is a father and mother whose son was taken across an international border by a man who has already proven he is willing to kill his own children to protect his empire. Beth Dutton has spent this entire series proving that she does not back down, and Rip Wheeler has spent his whole life proving that loyalty to this family is not a suggestion. It is who he is. If Season 2 truly opens with Case stepping into that fight, we are not just getting a rescue mission. We are getting a reunion of Dutton blood standing together against an enemy that thought he could break this family by taking their son. Picture it for a second. Beth and Rip crossing lines they have never crossed before, deep into cartel territory, following whatever trail Mariano's men left behind. And somewhere in that same dangerous world, Case using every resource his position with law enforcement gives him, picking up on the exact same trail from a completely different direction. Two paths, two Duttons closing in on the same target without even realizing how close they are to each other. When those paths finally collide, it will not just be a tactical alliance. It will be the first time in years that Beth has her brother standing beside her again, not as strangers pulled apart by tragedy, but as family fighting for the same blood. If Taylor Sheridan and this new writing team deliver that moment the way this franchise usually delivers its biggest reunions, I do not think there is a single fan of this universe who walks away from that scene without feeling something break open in their chest. But let's be honest with each other for a second, because this is where the fear creeps in. Every single time this show has given us a moment of hope, it has followed it with heartbreak. Rob Will's death proved that nobody in Rio Paloma is safe, not even someone we assumed would survive the season. So if Beth and Rip do make it across that border, if Case really does show up to help, there is no guarantee this ends the way we want it to. Mariano did not build a cartel empire by being careless, and a man who ordered the murder of his own son is not going to hand Carter back without a fight that could cost this family everything. That is what makes Episode 1 of Season 2 feel less like a rescue story and more like a countdown. Every choice Beth and Rip make from this point forward could either bring Carter home or turn this family's worst nightmare into something permanent. And that uncertainty, that fear sitting right underneath the hope, is exactly why this next chapter of Dutton Ranch feels so important. This is not just another season of a hit show anymore. This is Beth Dutton fighting for the one thing she has never had to fight for before. A child who needs her more than she has ever needed anyone. This is Rip Wheeler, a man who has buried more pain than most people could survive, standing at the edge of another war because the family he built with his own hands is under attack. And if Case really does step back into this story, this is also a chance for two siblings, torn apart by everything Yellowstone put them through, to finally stand on the same side again. Not because life gave them an easy path back to each other, but because someone they both love left them no other choice. So here is what I want to know from you. Do you believe Case is really coming to help save Carter? Or do you think Beth and Rip are going to have to fight this battle completely on their own? Do you think Beulah finally turns against Mariano once she realizes what he did to her son? Or do you think fear keeps her silent for even longer? And most importantly, after everything this family has already lost, do you believe Carter is coming home safe? Or is Dutton Ranch about to break our hearts one more time? Type your honest thoughts down in the comments because I read every single one of them, and I want to know exactly how you are feeling about where this story is headed. If this breakdown had you sitting on the edge of your seat the same way it had me while researching every piece of this story, do me a favor and hit that like button right now. It genuinely helps this channel grow. And if you have not subscribed yet, this is your sign to join the family, because I am covering every single update on Dutton Ranch Season 2 the moment real news drops, and trust me, you do not want to miss a single second of what is coming next. Stay close, keep your notifications on, and I will see you in the next video because this story is far from over.